between brains and brawn, right? Where he's utilizing, his circle, athletics and the traditional brawn to encourage kids and to make it fun for kids, right? To kind of tap into the brain and realizing that that's absolutely okay, that there isn't a competition here, that you can have both. And I like just tapping into that to make technology attractive and fun for kids, and just empowering them, right, from a very early age, to get them interested in something that is essentially the future, right? This idea, even we talked about this idea of COVID and how we're really utilizing technology, that companies are having to become more and more technological, more and more inventive at a faster pace. And so that's not really going anywhere. And so to get kids interested as soon as possible, and realizing, I think also that it's something that they can do, which I enjoyed a lot, right? I think there's sometimes this element that tech or computer science is untouchable, but that's not the case.
Yeah. Thanks for the correction. I said inner city kids. It's actually rural kids, which I think don't always have the same access. Welcome, Carlos. I'm going to have to chime in one of these days in the middle of the show, do like a appearance like Carlos does.
Yeah, it's a little complicated. It's a little complicated these days.
I gotta have to show up fashionably late from time to time. Hey, Carlos, welcome thank you for joining us out of Mexico City. We're talking about our guest, Ellis Wyms, and what stood out for you during our conversation with him?
Well, a number of things, but first of all, I gotta confess that it's very, in my mind, it's kind of strange to pair up a monster figure of sports and computer science. So it was very satisfying for me to actually witness the fact that someone in that field is actually caring about education and about the intellectual growth of children, and so it's rare. I mean, that stood out. It's like one of the first things that I said, rarely get to see this in the sports world. So that was very satisfying. So I'm glad for that. But also something that actually Kim brought it up, and I thought it's similar to what Kim brought up, was this brain versus brawn part. So how can you mix them in a way that are going to be, well balanced? That kind of also pulled my attention. So, Kim, why did you bring it up, by the way?
Oh, well, we talked about that a little bit actually before you were able to join us. But this idea that it's
before I get in, okay,
yeah, that it's not mutually exclusive, and I also appreciated that. I think also here what I like to bring up is it actually coincided a lot with a previous talk, I think about a week or two ago, when it talked about what companies can be doing, right, in this time to market themselves well. And one of the tips was this idea of giving back. And I think that what Ellis and his foundation are doing is just that. And I think it's also an opportunity for people who are in the software development field, if they're interested in, to volunteer with something like his, right? Just this idea that never kind of goes out of style, right? There's opportunities to educate kids. And you don't have to be a formal educator necessarily, or have an education in education to give back and explain your talents. And I appreciated that as well.
That's an interesting point. I learned a while ago something that stuck with me, and that is the idea that true giving is about helping others to give. So if you create an environment where not only are you giving, but you're creating an opportunity for other people to give, then you're really creating incredible light in the world. And so I do appreciate the fact that not only is he going out to reach out to rural area kids and create programs and partner with charter schools to make them more accessible, but also he's inviting, engineers and people who could teach to join with him and to provide this kind of education to those children. So it's giving opportunities for those who want to participate and want to give back and be a source of empowerment to these young men and women. And that's really what it's about. I was encouraged mostly because what he is doing is really a movement towards empowerment. It's empowering these kids to have access to something that is a hot marketplace that's doing well, relatively well considering what's going on right now. So it's a great space to be pushing along, and a great example to set, as Carlos said, to be an NFL star and come back and do something that's more related to computer science and entrepreneurship versus, the traditional path of staying in sports or sports marketing or advertising, things of that nature. Nothing wrong with that, but I think it's obviously we're in tech, so that tickles us more than most. But I think it's also important to give back and create opportunities where it's relevant, and technology is definitely relevant. What else came up for you guys? We have about a minute left.
I liked how his approach with the education was very equality based.
Sure.
I think that the entire classrooms, from what I understand, the entire classroom is involved, right? So it's an equal approach for boys, for girls. And it's this eclectic element that if you are in this class, you are going to learn about technology, right? Which I think is nice, that you don't have to meet a certain requirement or even necessarily have the choice, but it's a way to introduce everyone into this world. And I liked how their approach is also very teamwork oriented. I think that taps into the athletics, where it's actually not necessarily a competition. We talked about those aha moments and the reward, and it was just overall fun and encouraging.
Yeah, I think it's also another example of when sometimes chaos creates opportunity, right? Because they've been doing video conference remote classes for some time, and there are always those who push back against that, right? They'd rather do it in person in a classroom, but the whole world's been forced into remote learning right now, especially all this, something like 2 billion kids worldwide who are going to school from home on their computers. And so that has now made it possible to realize, what, it's not a bad idea. It actually can be pretty effective, and you can have a much broader reach without necessarily being limited to the brick and mortar of a classroom. So we're up on time, guys. I'm going to try to stick to the 10-minute mark. We're a little over, actually. What do we got coming up Wednesday, Carlos, for or Tuesday? Who do we have a guest this week? Do we have Tuesday and Wednesday this week? We got a guest tomorrow.
No, actually,
right?
well, yeah, we have that's tomorrow. We have Yembi Trong, the CEO of
From
Health
HealthSnap.
Snap, and also Health Snap. That is correct. That is a telemedicine platform. And
Ooh, that should be
Wednesday we're going to have Amiya Deshmukh from Maya System. So
Great.
I don't have the topic yet, but we have a double whammy this week, Tuesday and Wednesday, both at 1 p.m. Pacific. So
You
stay
get to
tuned,
see
folks,
in a row.
right here on Dojo Live.
Thanks for joining
What
us.
was that,
See you tomorrow.
Tulio?
I said everybody gets to see us 3 days in a row. Thanks for joining us.
Lucky
See you
them.
tomorrow,
Yeah,
1
absolutely.
p.m. and Wednesday at 1 p.m. again. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Bye. Bye, everyone.